if you don't know what that person or that business that might need you looks like, you don't know what message to give them. So you might have wonderful messaging that hits no mark.
Welcome to the podcast about communication in business. I'm your host, George Torok. Did you know that I'm known as the speech coach for executives? That's because I help business leaders deliver the intended message for greater success. And we do that through one-on-one coaching or group training for the team. When you listen to this podcast, you will hear insights and perspectives from communication experts from around the world. My guest today is Shay Prosser. Here's 3 facts that I think you should know about her. 1. On average, her clients increase value over 50% in the first year of working with them. 2. She is one of the founding members of the Birthing of Giants regional cohorts, a program that has put more people on the Inc. 5000 than any other. And 3, she's lived in over 10 states plus living abroad. Shay Prosser, welcome to Your Intended Message.
Thank you, George. It's a pleasure to be here and to get to have a conversation about our intended message with you.
Delighted to have that conversation. And with you, I know you come from a strong emphasis on strategy and how that affects communication within a company, within an organization. Why does it start with strategy?
So many companies will start speaking before they actually know what they're talking about. And so they will really just start getting things out there. Say, great, we've got a great product. Well, nobody really cares unless you know who you're trying to target and then also why they should care. So your strategy is around getting that perfect message to the right person at the right time. So if you don't know what that person or that business that might need you looks like, you don't know what message to give them. So you might have wonderful messaging that hits no mark and doesn't resonate with the people. So if you don't have a strategy, it's hard to know what you're trying to communicate.
And that makes sense. How does one know if we have a good strategy?
It's really looking at how your customers are responding. If you're a newer business, are you getting customers? Are you hitting them in a place? Are you looking around at the market and seeing that other people in the market are getting more traction than you are? That's another way to look at it. Really looking at the strategy from your customer's perspective is perfect. So a lot of my clients have got a number of clients, but they want more. So the first thing we often do is interview those clients, because when you can get the clients to tell you in their own words, you can craft your message in words that resonate with them. You might find things that you say one way and they're going to say it a very different way because it doesn't speak to them the way you're saying it. So, for instance, people will say, to a business owner, well, you need to talk about, optimizing this and optimizing that. Okay. Nobody thinks that they need to optimize. What they think they need is to get that fire over there put out. So if you can actually talk to them about what that fire is that they are needing to put out, then they go, oh, that speaks exactly to me because I know exactly what it is. So I know you at Your Intended Message really talk about how people communicate and how they get that message across. How do you hear it in strategy?
What I hear from my clients is they talk about being understood. They talk about feeling better when they're delivering the message and being able to think clear without getting muddled while they're putting the words together. And there are many people who when I start working with them, they say too much. And it comes out muddled, and their clients, their prospects, their audience is thinking, where the heck is this going?
So you hit the same thing on individuals as I do with businesses. So businesses will tell you the laundry list of all of the things that they do. And they tell you these, it literally is a laundry list. I had one client that had 25 things, and that was just the first laundry list. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we don't know what this solves. So let's talk to your clients. And the client said, hey, you know what? We know that we have a one-stop shop here. And we made the message better than that, right? Now, one-stop shop's a little bit overused, but we were able to take it and go, oh, they don't care about the details of these little things that you can do. What they care is that you're solving this problem for them. The problem they have is here. So therefore, they also, what's funny is the clients get better at telling people like them because now they can articulate what you've done for them and they can tell their friend rather than them telling their friend this laundry list because little known secret, business owners hang out with each other and also are often involved in groups or industry groups. So you can really get into an industry group or become a well-respected leader in an industry or an area by having a very well-crafted message.
Oh, and that's fascinating. So I see the benefit of having a clear message that your prospects and clients understand, but then making it so clear that they're able to pass the message on and spread the good news.
Yeah. And they know who it is. And the other thing that people hate to hear, but it's very true, is that if your message doesn't also have people say, that's not really me, then you don't have a clear message because you should have people that say, oh, they seem like a nice person, but that's not really what I need.
Oh, and a good reminder that in fact your message needs to identify not only those who are the right fit, but also those who are not the right fit.
Yep, absolutely. They're not the right fit, so that they know that they might need somebody else or they need a different kind of service or product. So then it means it's really speaking to somebody. If you market to everybody, you're marketing to nobody. If you tried to get somebody to do a marketing promo that hit my husband, who's bald, and hit me for a hair care product, you've got two very different audiences with very different needs. So you got to get down to saying, okay, are we doing something for a bald man? And that's a very specific product, and we're going to speak only to him. And we might get some humor in it too, right? When your message is, when you know who you're targeting, you can make sure that you have some humor or some things that would appeal to them and really get them involved in that message that you're communicating with them. So that's all part of it. It goes back to having the strategy first because then you know who you're talking to.
And so I heard there that when you target more clearly, it's easier to include humor because the humor is specific to the challenge, to the problem, to the solution.
Yeah. And you can often tailor your examples as well. So, like for your clients, when they're speaking, they've got to have some great examples. Well, there's no example of a general thing, a general person, a general thing. An example is I was speaking to my friend George. He's a communication coach and he is the host of Your Intended Message. So, George, la la la. Then you can talk about that. And that's a very specific person versus saying, well, generalizing people, because then it doesn't really hit with people.
What are the key elements of a good strategy?
Key elements are simplicity, clarity, and really understanding of what you do well and what you do uniquely well.
Should a strategy, if not somewhere in there, should it be we don't do this?
Absolutely. If you don't name the things that you don't do, you can have partners who do them. You might have a great person or a company that you refer to that does those well. But part of your strategy should be getting clear on what you do and don't do. And that's also, part of the communication is communicating what you do and don't do to your team so that they feel very clear of the boundaries within which they're living in, especially if you're a service-based business. Most of my businesses are service-based businesses. So, the team needs to know what the boundaries are in terms of the service that they are to deliver so that they can deliver excellent customer service, but know when they're going outside of that scope, either it's going to be more money or whatever the triggers are that, it changes the scope or it doesn't. I mean, we want them to deliver great customer service. So we want to give them the box in which they can play and then know when you can go out of that and when you can't. So then again, there's a level of communicating that strategy internally to your teams. So one of the things, I just was with one of my companies that we rebranded recently, and a big part of that was talking to the team about it. Here's why we rebranded. Here's what this means. Here's where we're going as a company, and helping to get them excited and know that, hey, when you're talking to clients about this, these are the things that we're adding. We're adding some experts that we didn't have before. Part of our growth strategy is to add more experts. So the team got really excited, and part of that communication was helping them really understand how their roles were going to stay the same or how they were going to change, and then how that impacted their clients, because it's a customer based business that we care deeply about our clients and want to make sure that they are understanding what we're doing and understanding how we can help them every day.
In a rebranding, I'm guessing it's much more than simply new colors and new logo.
Absolutely.
What needs to be in there?
Really rebranding it, there has to be a purpose. I mean, a real reason. It needs to be aligned with a broadening or a change of direction for the company. It needs to have a real reason. I don't love the idea of rebranding just for the sake of rebranding. This particular client, we were taking them from, it was one person's name, and we wanted a name that could withstand the test of time and really build a team around. They had gone from a small family held business, and they wanted to be able to incorporate more. So that was part of telling that story, is that it's more than a logo, it's more than a color, and that here's where we're going, and here's how this name is more accurate to where we are and where we're going. So you're right, it's more than logo and colors, and quite frankly, those are things that need to be done, but they're one piece on the laundry list of things that need to be done. It really is, a rebrand is about communication and positioning in the market, and also teaching the CEO to speak eloquently about it and not go on and on and on and on about the laundry list of things.
Service business versus a product business. Is is it more critical that the service business has a clear strategy versus if you've got a product? Well, you got a product. Everybody knows what we sell. We sell shoes or we sell cars.
Yeah. I think in both, because in product-based businesses, you're limited by what the product is, right? What it can do, and maybe you get creative around that, and maybe instead of saying this is a cup, you say, oh, it could be a vase too. That's great. You can have some creativity in product marketing, but in services, one of the things that people forget is that your service, what you're selling, has to align with what you're delivering, and where there's often unclarity is they'll sell one service and then they'll get into the project or get into doing it, and oh, there's more and more, and they don't know what the boundaries are so that they can clearly communicate to the client. So I've heard it said, and I'm not the first person to say, today's exception is tomorrow's expectation. So when you sell a service, right, and then you say, but George really wanted this other thing, so we're just gonna do it for George. He's a nice guy. And then the next project that you go along for that same client, well, you've given them the same scope of work, and then they go, oh, well, they just did this for us last time. So the next time, then you're adding on a free service, which costs you time, it costs you opportunity, whatever it's going to cost you, it costs you labor, and then all of a sudden, you've got scope creep. So instead, you get really good on the communication of saying, hey, I would absolutely be able to rush an addendum to you so that, we make sure. Little things sometimes start to get to be big things. So it's also that communicating with your team too when it's necessary to come and say, hey, that's out of the scope of work that we talked about, but here's how we're going to address it, so that you're still meeting the client's needs and putting your team in a comfortable position that they know what they're supposed to do, they know how to communicate it in a positive manner, and then they know the path. So services, it can be very easy to get muddy because you can always add something, change it, move it around, and then it can be potentially a customer issue in a not fun way.
We learned in your introduction that you've helped clients increase on average over 50% of their value. When you start working with these clients, where do you notice where are the breaks that are that, what's stopping them from achieving that on their own? What do you have to help them discover and kick out of the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I work mostly with small businesses. So most of the businesses that I work with are under $50 million, which means, revenue is a hard one to talk about because manufacturing revenue versus service revenue, a little different, right? But most of them, the owner is still doing some things, if not a lot of things. And so we've got business owners and business leaders. Well, one of the problems is that then they're not able to lift up and look at what the vision for the business is. So what I do is I come in as a fractional executive and help them work on where they've got processes that can be improved, where we can maybe sunset some services that aren't very popular and that aren't very profitable. Then we look at, are we making sure that we are a scalable business? So are we looking at all of the things so that there are processes and systems? I always tell my clients that if they can't go away for 2 weeks and turn their phone off and not check in, then they don't have a scalable business. So when we look at it, we need to have a strategy that we get them to that space. The value is then in the fact that they've got a team in place who can do the things and make sure that the business continues even if the owner's not in it. So part of that value comes from bringing on the right people, bringing on the right vendors, bringing on the right processes so that we make sure that it's very clear how the business should run day to day and the owner gets out of it.
How often do you find that the owner is the impediment?
Is there something over 100%? No. But often, we start businesses or we run businesses because often it's somebody who's really good at something, right? And then they start doing it and they get paid for it. And then they build other people around them who can do it, whether that's, building tables and benches or whether that's consulting or whether that's accounting, whatever it is that they're doing. So people are really good at it and they love doing it. So sometimes they're not willing to or don't know how to put the systems and processes in place so that their team can deliver without them, or that they can take on a strategic role where they might have some other people doing some more day-to-day things. So the owner, it really is about the owner learning to get out of it in a way that is productive. And that's part of what I help them is, being an executive partner who can come alongside them and say, hey, if you continue to do this, you're not going to build the team that you need and you're going to stay in the same spot. So often we build value by bringing in team members that can either on a fractional or a full-time basis do some of the things that the business owner is doing so the business owner can pursue what's next in the business. They can look at that idea. It might be somebody that's in a old school business that knows that if you did this technology that you could not only build it and use it for your own business, but you could sell it to others. They might not be building out some of the intellectual property that they could. They might not be, codifying some of the things that they are really good at that they could then sell to others. So we look at getting them in a different spot so that they can really do the things that they're good at, but, get out of the way a little bit. And it's an emotional journey.
Once the strategy is set, how often does it need to be communicated?
I'm a big fan of annual plans with quarterly check-ins. I love 90 days is enough to see progress, and 90 days is enough for your team to feel some wins. So monthly's a little too much, but I love quarterly because then, and I love for there to be really good metrics, simple but good metrics. So for instance, I had a client who we started working together. They were in a big state of transition. They lost a huge client and needed to diversify their revenue streams. Arguably, they should have done that a few years ago, but it's okay. We can't go back to a few years ago, right? What they needed to do is they really needed to get their top people out talking to potential clients and to current clients and drum up new business. So we created a very simple 90-day plan of outreach and what the conversations were. We needed to do this to find out where there's new opportunities. What's so fun is that they were stressed out 90 days ago. At the end of 90 days, they had very clear metrics that said, we've had this many conversations. Here's what's happening. We've done more RFPs. They're in an industry that is good for RFPs. They said, we've done more RFPs in the last 90 days than we did all last year. Every RFP was worth them spending time on because they had a process to vet them. We kind of put that in place and said, hey, we don't want to do RFPs just for the sake of doing RFPs. How are we going to make sure that you guys are aligned on this is a good thing for you to go after? Did that. So sometimes it's creating those very simple metrics. And when I met with them last week after this 90 days, and they were still stressed out only because it is still a change and, it takes a little while to get the new business, but they felt great about the progress they were making and the things that they were doing. So I think that also is a way to keep your team motivated. They can see the progress even if you haven't gotten the results yet because it's been too short of a time period.
When you're introducing new processes to people, I imagine there's pushback. There's the old, but we've always done it this way. Why should we do it that way? This works for us. How do you get past that initial pushback, that reluctance to, in fact, do you even find some people that try to sabotage the new process just to prove that you're wrong?
I think you've been in some of the businesses that I've been in. I mean, it's like you've been in business before. I'd imagine you do your intended message because you've got some really good things to share. No, it is. So what I found is that, it comes back to that communication with your team and helping them at the beginning understand that there will be a change, even if it's small, taking place. Involve them as appropriate. It's not always appropriate for everyone to be involved in everything. So that's something that small businesses sometimes do. They get everybody involved in everything. That can slow down progress. But helping people understand who is going to be involved and why, and then how it's going to be communicated out to everybody else after. So I love a good, simple project plan, which, depending on how big of a thing you're changing, right? If you're changing a key technology that everyone uses, it might be a bigger plan. But say you're changing your messaging. All right, so I've done this, when we did a rebrand. So you tell people it's coming. You tell them a little bit about why it's coming. And then you tell them what the process is that it's going to happen so that you can say, hey, we're going to hold a launch event for our new rebrand a month before we're going to send it out to customers. So you're going to know how it's going to be communicated. You get them that comfort. And you also invite them, as appropriate, for feedback to say, what else do you think we're going to need to consider in this process? What else? Get them a place that they feel heard. And I found you get a whole lot less resistance. There are still some people who are going to stick their feet in the sand. And then that becomes a cultural thing of who are you as a company? If you are a company that, it is okay to be completely resistant or, averse to change, then that's a choice you're making as a company and as a culture. And if people still don't come along, if that's okay with you, then that's a cultural thing. But often, once people start to get excited and they feel like they've been communicated with, they do get on board and they will get some joy out of it.
When you work with an organization, when you work with them as a fractional executive, which means that you're not there for the typical 40-hour or 60-hour week, you're only there part-time. How do people see you? Do they respect you even though you're only there part-time?
They do. You know what's interesting? If you think about it this way, your executives at any company that you're with, you don't see them all day, every day. So from my client's perspective, the way I built my services, my conversations with my clients from the beginning, I'm there for the long haul. So if we have an agreement that, I'm a fractional executive. Yes, we have a contract for a certain amount of time, but the intent is that I stay in this role until we grow the company that they need a full time. So that might be a few years. So one of the things is they still have access. So we have an agreement that I work with them X amount of time on average a week. I've always told them we don't do it on a specific hourly basis because I don't want to go out to lunch with them if we happen to be in person and have them thinking, oh, is she charging me for this hour? Or if they call me, I had one who put some time on my calendar today unexpectedly because she had an incredible opportunity come across their desk on Friday. And she's got to deliver a proposal on Wednesday. So that's the kind of thing I go, I track my time enough to understand where we are in the process, but I'm there just like any other executive. The issue is in smaller companies, they don't have enough to do and can't go fast enough for a full-time executive. So I'm still doing all of that work. I'm just doing it for about 5 or 6 companies at any one time. So they can call me, text me, Slack me, whatever, and I feel like any executive on the team getting back to them as any executive would, maybe 5 minutes, it may be 5 hours because I'm in with other clients. So, and it's fun. I also get to bring things from cross industry, much like you bring things to your podcast. You know, you've got things that one intended message is over here and bring it into another one. What I do is I can bring best practices from different companies because, of course, I don't have any competitors. They're always industry exclusive, when you're in the fractional role. So I can bring things that we're doing over here and bring them over here and get really good results for both companies.
And that reminds me, early in my career, I had several jobs in a short period of time. Wasn't planned that way, but what I discovered is that when I started with a new organization, I could see opportunities from processes that I learned at the last place,
Absolutely.
and it could have been an entirely different industry, but still the concept could
Yes.
be brought in and applied.
Yes, absolutely. And taking the concepts of, one of the best things I did early in my career was I ran large scale events for Microsoft in all over the Southeast. The project management and communication skills that I learned when I was in my early 20s. I don't run large scale events anymore, thank goodness. I let other people do that. But I have led teams that run large scale events. And so that kind of dedication to having a process, because when it's game day, you don't get a rewind. When it's game day and you have 2,000 people coming to see your speakers and breakout rooms and all of that, you have to have communicated with each of those people on the team and with the attendees on what to expect. So that is a very but taking those same concepts, you're right, taking them to another role, to different things and different projects can be huge. And I love when those, having several experiences in a row, you really get to see different industries and different things and know what works well and what doesn't.
Where does vision fit into the strategy picture? And is it critical?
It is. Where it fits in, and this is where, the Birthing of Giants cohort that I'm doing, we take visionaries and we put them in a safe space where they can refine their vision before they bring it to their executive team. So often visionaries will sit and they will vision, and they don't know that they're communicating confusion to everybody else because they don't have the vision solidified enough that they can disseminate that vision to the people who need to do it. So where vision comes in is that you say, we're going here, right? Like it's, the vision is, we're starting out from Charlotte, North Carolina. Are we going to Ontario or are we going to San Diego? Right? We got to know. You got to tell your team, because you can start out by just going anywhere, but you're really not going to get anywhere fast. So, what the visionary needs to do is really have a space to go, all right, we're going to go to Ontario. So, all right, now let's talk about how we're going to get there. Then they can take that to their team and say, what's the strategy by which we need to get from Charlotte, North Carolina to Ontario? All right, are we trying to go there by plane, train, boat? The strategy is, why are we doing this? Are we doing it because we want to, it's a scenic route and we want to bring on, the best train service in the world? Or are we doing it to see if we can get how fast we can get there? Okay, so then that's different. So then it takes your team, when you can tell them where they're supposed to go, get your team to help build the strategy on how you're going to get there. And then that's how they build it and then disseminate it to their teams. But the vision's key. With no vision, you really have a lot of good people maybe chasing shiny objects.
Gee, I've fallen into that trap. Better check my vision.
The vision's a big thing to have clarified. And having a partner who can keep you on track on that vision can be huge.
Shay, for those who'd like to learn more about you and your services, how would they best get a hold of you?
Yep, my website is North 12 Partners, North and then 1 and a 2 partners.com. Also connect with me or follow me on LinkedIn. I love to share the learnings of what I'm learning from my clients and from my friends. And those are the two best ways. And then my email is Shay, SHAY, at north12partners.com. So anybody can reach out and I'd be happy to answer questions about strategy, communication, and anything about how they get their intended message across.
And you can find those links in the description below. Shay, as we prepare to wrap up, imagine you're sitting down with and perhaps you've had this conversation many times. You're sitting down with a business owner of a small business, started by the founder. It's growing successfully, but they've plateaued. And you're talking to them, offering them advice on how they can get past this plateau. What 1, 2, or 3 pieces of advice might you offer?
Oh gosh, you are describing exactly the client that I often work with. They've hit that plateau. And I would ask them, what is your vision, and have you reworked your vision lately, and is it still clear? And then I would ask, what is your strategy that you can lay out in 3 simple points? What are the things you're doing to get to that vision? If they can't lay it out in a very short order, then we've got too much going on. And then I would ask them, how they are empowering their executive team or their team to go and execute on the strategy that they have put out. So at some point, they're going to say one of those 3 things isn't there: the vision, the strategy, and the empowerment of their teams to execute.
Powerful advice. My guest today is Shay Prosser, reminding you that when your communication isn't working well within the organization, go back and check your strategy. If you like what you heard, tell your friends and post your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, because that helps more listeners find us. Come back every week for more practical insights to help you deliver your intended message. I'm your host, George Torok.